Hi all, this is Allmighty and welcome to this video. So today I have prepared you a game between Yasser Seirawan and Mikhail. As you might have imagined, it is per suggestion by a subscriber. This time it wasn't a game suggestion, a match suggestion. It was essentially a comment, can you please show a game between Yasser Seirawan and Mikhail? And I say, yeah, why not? So I decided to look into some games. They played a couple of games, I think four to be exact, and this is the one that I actually found to be the most interesting. And not just the game, actually also a story connected to the game. But first, let's make an introduction before going into that. Yasser Seirawan, you all know him. He is today a very popular person in chess, so in top level chess as a commentator and also as a guy who is featured in some YouTube videos, sharing his knowledge of openings, end games, some yeah things that you need to know about the chess game in general. And at that time, he was also known as the killer of world champions because he has a very good track record, beating six world champions. So Karpov, Tal, Kasparov, Topalov, Kramnik, and Anand, so quite an achievement right there. We know that Yasser is definitely a strong player. On the right we have Mikhail, a former world champion, the guy who likes to sacrifice his stuff in order to win the game, the guy who essentially when he makes the sacrifice um, puts the fear in to his enemy's pieces, and essentially the guy who is playing against him doesn't want to accept the sacrifice, or he knows that Misha is preparing something really bad for him. So yeah, it is a game from 1988. At that time, Mikhail Tal is already yeah very sick. So as you probably most of you know, in 1992, Mikhail Tal died. He was battling cancer for a very long time, and already there he was very sick. And I'm telling you this because this kind of is, I want to transition this into the story that I wanted to tell you. And this story is probably yeah, one of the reasons why I wanted to show you this game, because as the internet is an awesome place, I have to say that you always tend to see comments from people writing all bunch of stuff, and you sometimes learn something. And this is the thing that I read before going into this game, that essentially Yasser, as he is a very popular person nowadays, tends to remember through interviews or through his books moments before going into some games. And before going into this game, he said that he was really worried about Misha's health, and he shared a ride in the elevator with none other but Viktor Korchnoi. And Korchnoi was known to be as Victor the Terrible Korchnoi, a very, I wouldn't say cranky person, but yeah, a person not much, not really familiar as a person that makes friends. So sharing the ride with Korchnoi, Yasser said that he is really worried about Misha. Yasser, the good guy that he is, that yeah, he is still playing chess, but he is very ill. Maybe he should take it easy. But Korchnoi responded with what? Something like, if you have a chance, you should kill him. So I, at first I kind of laughed, but this type of stuff, it definitely isn't funny, and it is really strange to me, the type of humor that some chess players do have. And yeah, so definitely something to think about. Of course, Yasser didn't kill Tal in this game over the board, but in terms of playing the positional chess, maybe he did kill him in some way. So you can judge by yourself. Did Yasser really took Korchnoi's advice in this game? So let's start. D4, knight to f6, and in those couple of games I've seen between the two players, they played the Nimzo-Indian two times. So after a couple of moves, we have the Nimzo-Indian on the board, bishop to b4. Queen to c2, castles, bishop to g5, and now d6. In the previous games that I saw, they actually Tal was also with the black pieces and he played d5 immediately. But the problem in that game was that Tal really didn't have a chance to express himself, so to speak, because after the exchanges in the center, Seirawan also gave up the bishop for the knight, and they went into this very calm variations with a lot of exchange pieces right from the start, which didn't allow Tal to maybe sacrifice something. So he goes for the d6 variation here to probably make up for that and maybe complicate the position in the middle game, where he will then find himself in a much more complicated position to maybe go for some sacrifices, let's say. Okay, so we have e3 just continuing, knight from b to d7 and bishop to d3. h6, don't want to lose the pawn, and bishop to h4. And now c5, strike in the center. Knight to e2 and b6. Castles, pawn captures on d4 and pawn captures on d4. And right here in this position we see that Tal gives up the control of the center to white. So Yasser enjoys that, and from this point on, it is a really peculiar way to start the opening, but it is sometimes something that people do. They don't really go about developing quite far, so they push the pawns only one square, not two squares, give the control of the center to white, and then surely but slowly try to build up their position, some kind of a hedgehog style defense, and then try to do something. But Yasser is a very good grandmaster, and he knows about these types of positions, and he will play the best moves to not allow Mikhail Tal to actually fire a bullet in this game. Bishop to b7, occupying this very long diagonal, but now a3, bishop has to exchange, bishop to c3 and knight to c3. And white is left with the bishop pair. We have queen to c7, because what would Tal probably want to do? He would like to push d5 in order to open up the position so that he can put the rooks on the c and e file and then continue the game. But d5 isn't good here because pawn captures, and after these exchanges, white is left with a bishop pair. And definitely everybody would like to play with white pieces here. So you cannot push d5 immediately. Here queen to c7 is played first. But now b4, and if at any point black plays d5, c5 will be played, and this means essentially that white will have a passed pawn pretty soon on the queen side, and this is already half of a won game. Bishop to a6, pressuring the c4 pawn, but now a4. And this move a4 essentially stops bishop to c4. If bishop to c4, you can play now knight to b5, attacking the queen, and now you have two attackers on the bishop. You will lose a piece, of course. And so if you pick up the bishop, you lose the queen, or if you pick up the knight, you also lose the queen. There is no other way. If you move the queen will capture the bishop, and this is it. So this is why Tal didn't go for bishop captures. He played rook from f to c8, and now we have knight to b5. So now the bishop isn't attacking on him anymore on c4, and we have the queen is attacked. So queen to c6, bishop to g3, two attackers on d6 pawn, so e5. e5, okay, it is a move that you can play. d5 you cannot play right away because knight can capture on d5, you cannot recapture. Okay, you can with playing queen to d2 and then preparing bishop to e4, but of course Yasser doesn't want to complicate the position. He plays queen to b2, moving the queen out of the way. And now d5. So as you can see by the last couple of moves, Tal is really in a cramp here. So his pieces aren't looking all that good. This bishop was a monster here. He still is eyeing these pawns, and he needs to push the pawns to actually to open up the position and have some chances. But now Yasser still wants to pressure the position, something that probably Tal would do if he was on the white side, and plays rook from f to c1. Doesn't want to capture the pawns. Queen moves from the c file to e6, and now pawn captures on e5. Queen captures, rook captures on c8, rook captures on c8, and knight captures on e7. White has just won a pawn. So you cannot capture on d3 because of knight to c8, and the threat is knight to e7. And there is actually no way how you can, for example, go about attacking this knight and trapping him perhaps, because pawn can also capture on e5, and then knight to d6 is coming, so the knight is safe. You have just won the exchange. So here in this position, after knight to a7, bishop to b7 was played, threatening checkmate on g2. Bishop to f1 now, and now rook to c4. You cannot capture because, as I said, queen to g2 is checkmate. So knight goes back to b5, moving from the corner, and now pawn captures on d4. Rook to d1, pressuring d4, you want to give it back, get it back, and bishop to c6. Knight captures on d4, you have too many defenders, black cannot capture on d4, and now knight to h5. So here Tal doesn't want to capture on a4 because bishop to c4 is now possible, there is no checkmate. And the queen has to capture, there is no time to capture the rook actually. Now once again white would be an exchange up. So here first knight to h5 is played, threatening to capture the bishop, but f3 in the meantime. And here what happens is you don't have time to capture on g3 because of bishop to c4, and the knight and the bishop is attacked. Tal is in a lost position, so he tries the last thing that he can, bishop to a4. Bishop, as I've said, captures on c4 because he can now. Queen captures on c4, and now rook to a1, attacking the bishop. And now queen to d3. Did Yasser lost? So did Tal lost a bishop here? Not really, because after rook to a4, queen to d1 check. You can play king to f2 and you get the rook back, but now not just the rook, the whole exchange, and the position is all of a sudden equal. So of course Yasser doesn't fall for this, he plays the bishop to f2, moving the bishop out of the way so the knight cannot capture. b5 protecting the bishop, and now queen to e2. As you can see now in this position, Yasser is a clear exchange up, and now he wants to exchange pieces to come into some endgame where he can essentially play for the win. So first thing he wants to do is exchange the queen. Queen moves to c3, attacking the pawn and the rook. Queen to e1 defends it. Once again queen to d3, does one exchange. Queen to e8 check, attacking the knight. Knight has to go to f8, knight to c6, and in this position Tal resigned the game. So the reason, of course, is that knight to e7 is a threat. Then you will lose the knight, so this is all forced. And there are some threats like queen to g8 then, so you have to deal with that as well. So yeah, this is pretty much it for this game. If you have some other suggestions, definitely please do say in the comments down below. I hope I will find some interesting stories along with your other suggestions. But other than that, yeah, I would like to thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.